Welcome back, AP. Oh, man. Rufio would like to tell you that he is so proud of what you guys have been doing this past week. I'm still ridiculously impressed that I don't have to give you an assessment for... So, an assessment for your exploration unit. Due to the fact that y'all did so well in that review game, I'm just so impressed that you actually knew all that stuff that you knew. Isn't that right? Now, love me. So, now... The big thing is, though, going forward, we got to continue our talk about absolutism and the growth of these monarchies, right, into this entire, basically gigantic government system where Europe basically shifted all of its power towards its monarchs, right? And we talked in class about like the state of Europe and how the Reformation is going to weaken like this entire weaken the role of the Catholic Church. The Renaissance is going to might grow the power of the nobility, but would later on also weaken the power of the nobility going into the era of exploration and the massive market economies that were actually developed by these monarchs, right? Now, we left off talking about the Treaty of Westphalia. Oh, by the way, before I forget, your tests and DBQs will be done by the end of the weekend, all right? So if you want to stop by in on Monday and double check on what you think you got, more than welcome to, right? Like a cat. Now, anyway, but the big thing is we left off talking about the Treaty of Westphalia, right? So the Treaty of Westphalia is literally one of the groundbreaking marquee events in Western Europe, or in Europe in general, due to the fact that it marks the end of time period number one in the AP curriculum, but also because it is a series of treaties that concludes that massively violent thing that we talked about as the 30 Years' War, right? So, marks the end of large-scale religious violence, and it kind of brings a close to religious totality as well as religious-based warfare. Isn't that right? So, the big thing about it is the things that it brought in. Well, first of all, the Peace of Augsburg after the Treaty of Westphalia is going to be re-ratified. But it's going to have an addendum added to it to include, you getting down? Okay, he's just going to go lay down now. An addendum added to it to actually include Calvinism, right? Because that was actually one of the biggest beefs about the Peace of Augsburg when it actually was originally ratified, right? Because the leaving out of Calvinism gave way to the persecution of the Calvinists, right? That's why we had that picture of Cardinal Richelieu sitting there bombarding La Rochelle, right? While he's standing there with his armor on, with all of his cardinal robes hanging out of them while they're just sitting there watching their own people in France be attacked, right? But it kind of re-ratifies, it kind of brings an end to all that religious violence, right? Now, massive results of the 30 Years' War, though. Now, these are results of the 30 Years' War, not results of the Treaty of Westphalia. Because it's not like the Treaty of Westphalia caused a peasant population to be decimated, disease spread, extreme famine caused, European power shifts, and Germany to be reorganized, right? So, really, really quick, though, the massive important results of the 30 Years' War, of course, are all of the negatives that we're looking at, right? Population decimated, disease spread, extreme famine. The biggest ones, though, are the shifting of the European power towards your monarchies, as well as the reorganization of the German territories, right? Now, here's the thing. Are we supposed to be saying Germany? No, not necessarily. We're supposed to be saying the HRE. Holy Roman Empire, still around, right? So make sure you put HRE somewhere in here, or just kind of clarifying to yourself in your notes that the Holy Roman Empire is still alive and well, right? So getting into it, though, this is what Europe looked like around 1700 following the Treaty of Westphalia, right? So we're about 50 years off this mark. However, this is going to be the first map that you get of the second time period. Dun, dun, dun. Some of you are like, wait a minute, I don't know where any of this is. Why is Poland so big? I mean, I don't know. Well, actually, I do know. But, like, a lot of this, the reason why we're getting into this is going to be your first non-modern map, all right? So, and some of y'all are probably sitting there going, like, well, we haven't even gotten to Eastern Europe yet. Well, we're going to have to do a completely different map when we get to Eastern Europe anyway. When we talk about the rise of the USSR, its fall and the satellite states that came from it. You know what I mean? Like, so don't worry yourself. We'll get to all that stuff later on, okay? We're going to be getting there, I promise, okay? But the big thing is we're going to be talking about the reorganization of Europe and kind of like how this is going to lead to long-standing conflicts and how the Treaty of Westphalia might actually have led to like the power vacuum giving Napoleon his rights and also even kind of sort of leading into like World War I, all right? So, but we'll get there in a little bit. But let's talk about the achievements in building states and power shift to monarchs, right? So, well, sorry. Let me move my face real quick, and I'll move myself like right over here. Oh, wait. Going back to this map real quick, one thing you need to jot down somewhere is one very, very important country is going to be actually created, and it's going to exist now following the Treaty of Westphalia. I know some of you are freaking out about it already, and some of you already know the answer. Like, I know Tommy McBride knows the answer because he's wicked smart, and I know that, like, Dion knows the answer because she's wicked smart, and Christina literally knows this entire course already because she's, like, omnipotent. Now, anyway, but it's Prussia, Prussia, all right? So, not Russia, Prussia, all right? So, the Prussia-Brandenburg the Prussia-Brandenburg state is going to actually lead to the nationalism movement in Germany itself, all right? So, just kind of like a little addendum somewhere. Just be like, oh, Prussia popped up, right? So, then there's going to be large-scale achievements in state building, and our power is going to shift to our monarchs, right? So, there are going to be two types of government that pop up following the advancement of absolutist gains, right? So, and that is an absolutist system, and then there's a constitutionalist system, right? So, first and foremost, let's talk about the major differences between the two of them. Your absolutist system is where all power is under personal control. By the way, these two types of governments are referring to the types of governments that actually these monarchs are interacting with, right? So this is like absolutism through the perception of a monarch. This is constitutionalism through the perception of a monarch, all right? It's not like constitutionalism and how it affects everybody. It's talking about constitutionalism and how it's affecting the monarch that actually leads that country. Oh, man. I said a lot in about 30 seconds. Now, but according to an absolutist state system, all power is going to be under the personal control of each monarch, right? They're going to be allowed to make any type of law, push any type of law, create any type of tax, and the government must follow, and the government and the people must follow suit, right? Your constitutionalist system, don't bark at your mother. That's not nice. It's okay, sweetheart. Don't worry. All right, so, hi, sweetheart. All right, so, but the constitutionalist system, that's not nice. So, the constitutionalist system is going to be a system that actually requires a legislative system, and then also the monarch must respect all of those legislature laws, right? Which is actually what we have the closest resemblance of, a constitutionalist system, right? So usually these things are going to actually be set up by a formal constitution, piece of paper, some type of document, all right? Now, the big countries that go absolutist are France, Spain, Central Europe, and when we're talking about Central Europe, we're referring to the Holy Roman Empire as well, the Austrian Habsburgs, right? And Russia as well, right? The constitutionalist system that were majorly important, and they actually, ironically enough, due to this system, had the ability to make tons of wealth, like mind-blowing amounts of wealth, was, of course, the English and the Dutch, right? So, excuse me. Now, the England and the Dutch, of course, their entire system is going to be set up wildly different from everyone else's, leaving them the ability to actually grow and grow and grow, right? Now, with the English monarchical constitutionalist role, does anybody know the document that informally set up? Whoa, calm down, Haley. I hear you back there. That's right. That's exactly right. The Magna Carta, right? The Magna Carta had actually set up the constitutionalist system in Europe in 1215, right, during the Middle Ages. So England will keep with that document, follow suit. However, they're going to have some of their own personal absolutist struggles with this family known as the Stuarts that really tries to take over and actually lead in what they believe is an absolutist system. Right? I know that the reason why I mentioned Haley is because I know she's a big Rain fan. So anybody that actually likes that show, I think it's on Netflix. So same goal, though. They have all the same goal. Grow, develop, tax efficiently, excel, right? But what do you think some of the major obstacles are going to be in their way? That's exactly right, Jillian. Language, technology, infrastructure. Good Lord, how'd you know that? All right, so now, obstacles as in languages are spoken several different ways across their entire empires or countries, right? Because right now, all these countries have separate little holdings, different areas, colonies, things like that, right? So technology, they just did not still quite have the technology to carry messages, move initiatives, or spread word fast enough yet, right? So it's going to take some time to build up to some really, really, really extreme monarchical powers. And the infrastructure. Road systems are still not expansive yet. Canal systems are still not expansive yet. And a lot of your landlocked areas inside these countries are going to be pretty vulnerable to these nobles trying to take over and actually lead without their kings at all, right? So let's talk about how, really quick, give me a title. Give me a new title somewhere else, right? Somewhere not around here, okay? Like a new title to create this new section, okay? How these monarchs got this done, all right? So, how these monarchs got it done. Let's get this. All right. So, well, ironically enough, you could say let's get this bread because we're going to talk about bread here in about like 2 seconds. Now, anyway, warfare and the growth of militaries, right? They need to grow their military, right? The monarch would be represented by their military, so they must find a way to actually like increase the size of it, right? So they are going to move to a professionalization model for armies, right? So professionalization means that you're raising a formal, year-round, paid military that has its own uniforms, standard-issued weapons, rations, retirement, Veterans Affairs, all kinds of stuff like that. Hello. So army sizes during this time period are going to triple, all right? Absolutely grow massively big. The 3 big ones are the Prussians, right? They actually create like one of the biggest militaristic societies that Europe had ever seen. The French are going to actually make a massive military as well. Somebody, or I think it was like Lucas that says like, oh, all the French do is surrender. Not true. During this time period, they were cleaning house, if you will. And then the other big one that's going to grow its army massively large, the Russians. Who even saw those guys coming, right? So now, we'll wait until we get to Peter the Great, all 6'7" of him. Now, the big thing going forward, speaking of let's get this bread, now is political action, right? So we talked about this briefly in class for like 2 seconds. Laura McInerney brought it up, right? And you were like, oh, yeah, remember the Women's March on Versailles. And then Grace, you nodded along and you were like, yeah, that's right. Bread riots are a big problem. And I agree, Grace. Bread riots are a big problem. So political action is going to make these monarchs much more popular amongst their citizens, right? So bread subsidies and the riots. So going on in a lot of these countries at this time are large-scale bread riots due to the fact that the 30 Years' War is leaving a lot of these rustic village communities poor, destitute, and hungry, right? Now, due to this fact, and due to the fact that a lot of these farms were burned down and a lot of the infrastructure that actually set up their agriculture was dismantled, bread prices are actually going to rise, right? They're actually going to grow, leading to the poor to riot in the streets, destroy bakeries, destroy nobles' homes, and food or death, bread for the poor, right? Now, what the monarchs are going to do to gain popularity with their citizens are introduce these things called subsidies, right? Now, what a subsidy is when you take tax money, right? Tax money from your nobility, and you subsidize a product by paying people to produce more of it or paying to keep the cost lower. We in the United States do it with several items, right? Agriculturally speaking. Soy and corn being the 2 biggest. Isn't that right, sweetheart? What? The 2 biggest things that we subsidize are soy and corn? Yes, see? Now, municipal powers couldn't keep order, so they're going to end up leaning on the national government. When I say municipal, I mean the nobles could not keep order. These bread riots are throwing them way off. So enter the monarchs to stabilize it all, right? So they're actually going to gain a lot of popularity via this method, right? Now, this is the last slide we have, and this is going to be it, and we're going to wrap up here, and then we're going to get into some stuff on Monday, all right? But let's talk about the rise. This is the title over here. I know this is driving some of y'all nuts. I know Emily O'Donnell right now is about to throw her computer because like she doesn't like it when I put these titles on random parts of the slide, right? But that's the title for the rise of absolutism in France and the decline in Spain. The ABCs of absolutism, right? When we talk about the ABCs of absolutism, this just kind of gives you a way to remember the traits of an absolutist government. Now, remember, we're talking about absolutism, not constitutionalism, like in England and the Dutch Republic. Hi, Josie. Now, absolutism, the total personal rule by one monarch, has 3 particular traits. Absolutism being the big A, and then B, a bureaucratic government, right, which means a structure of nobility and a possible legislative or a multi-level government for tax collection beneath that one monarch. That's a bureaucratic government. A centralized government, meaning that government is ruled from one location, right? So hence your capital cities, London, Paris, where else? Berlin, you know what I mean? Madrid, there we go. And then the biggest one, though, that I need you to underline, circle it 6 times, put a smiley face and a heart next to it, okay, is the divine right to rule. A lot of monarchs are going to invoke the ability of divine right, saying that God placed them on the throne, and with God's credence, they are now allowed to rule their countries, right? This all really, really started, and the best clear-cut example of absolutism is the Bourbon dynasty, aka the former Burgundies, right, which is actually from the 100 Years' War, which is during the Middle Ages, which we never actually talked about, but they're also known as the former Burgundies. But the Bourbon dynasty is going to rise up in France and create the first true absolutist government, right? And of course, you know the poster boy, Louis XIV, right? We'll get to him, though, on Monday. And I kind of just wanted in this flip to go over like some nitpicky stuff, like how absolutism works, the setup for it. But we will talk about some more stuff on Monday, all right? Hope y'all have a great weekend. I'll see you guys later. Oh, by the way, go Birds.